In this video, we're going to cover off on recipes. Now, to start, I'm going to go into doors and windows. Now, I've already done a takeoff for counting the doors in here, so I'm going to use this as an example for recipes. And a quick intro of what a recipe is firstly, it's this button right here that looks like a stack of cards. And the whole idea is that where we have so far been doing line by line, i.e. one item, one cost, one measurement, a recipe is a great way of bundling things together. Now, some other softwares call this composite, some estimate courses call it the same thing, but basically it's a group of items together. So in this case, we might say door openings, where each opening includes a door, the lock set, a number of hinges, labor, and potentially a whole range of things. So I'm going to hit this recipe button here, and it's just going to give me pretty much nothing to begin with. Now I can go in and grab this plus button here and just add some stuff in, or I can also browse recipes. If I have, say, A, built some myself already and save them, or B, I can use some of the build exact ones. That being said, I think it's a really good exercise to go and try to build some yourself, and I think there's no better way to learn this than by going through and having a crack and jumping right in. Now, one thing you're going to hear me say a lot is that all of these, i.e. all the lines here, fit into one of these. And that's going to be true of a recipe whether it's each, i.e. all of these items down here as I add them in will fit into one each of these, door in this case, or we might have recipes where all these items fit into 1 square foot or 1 linear foot made up as an example. All it's trying to do is figure out one of the unit so it can then multiply it out. And that's really how it's trying to think about it. So I'm going to go and tell it what goes into here. So I'm going to say door. That's the obvious one. You'll notice it does pop up. So you can use your price list in here as well. So I'm going to say it's this much, and I'm going to say jam, and I'll say it's this much again. And I might say architrave and moldings and so on. And I'm going to say it's this much per foot. So this one's a little different because so far we just said one door, one jam, which makes sense. But here I'm going to say that there's linear feet of this into each door, and there's going to be this much per door. You can do things like lock sets, so 1 lock set, and we'll add this for that. Now labor is a bit more of an interesting one because people do this in so many different ways. For example, it's quite common for people who are, quite experienced estimating or built for quite a long time to just add a single line into each category or into the entire quote for an allowance of labor. But I will put it in here just to give you an example of how it can be done. So I'm going to say labor. I'm going to say that each install should take 2 hours or say 1.5 hours or whatever it might be at this rate. And I'm just using this as an hour. Great. So from this, I've got a time cost for each door, i.e. the whole assembly. And because I use an existing line, it already knows this for doors. But if I hadn't mentioned it already, I could absolutely go and do a takeoff from here, or I could use the calculator and it would pop out from the right and kind of cover this box a little bit. And as we've shown in previous videos, you can reuse measurements that you've already done. So it's got 4 lines in here, and the numbers on the right is where it's multiplied everything by 4. So it's going great. 4 doors, 4 jams, this much feet for arc, 4 locks, 6 hours of labor, and these quantities are ultimately what we'll go through to our purchasing later on. It's also going to print on a bill of quantities, and I think that's one of the single biggest benefits of recipes, that it will make your orderable quantities a lot easier later down the road. So rather than having to look at the total number of doors later on and then figure out the number of feet of arc, and it will actually figure it out for you, and it will calculate hours of labor. I really like that about recipes and how it goes about that. A few other little points here and there, and if you build the world's best recipes and now you want to save it forever, save as will pop out into the catalog section. Much like how you can save individual prices, you can also save whole recipes, and that means that you can then use the browse button to find it next time. If you build a recipe that you're only using one time, just in this estimate, you can just go ahead and close it. It will still exist there, but only for this estimate. And another thing to point out is the actuals category box. So you might be asking yourself what this is all about. And this is a more of an advanced kind of recipe feature, and it allows you to build bigger recipes where you can then split them into two different cost categories. So a really good example of that might be, you might have a wall where it's measured per, let's say, foot contains plaster, frame, so on and so forth, and maybe some wrap. And then you could split it into the different relevant cost categories. If you don't do this or you don't need it, then just leave it blank. It's completely fine. You don't have to go and fill it out if you're not going to use it. And yeah, keep in mind that you're only really ever using this if you intend to split the recipes up. Final point is there are quite a number of recipe videos because there are quite a number of things you can do with them, particularly around framing and flooring and siding and so on. I'm not going to go through this any more examples, but if you are interested and it is something you really want to do more of, definitely go check those videos out for yourself. And that's a quick intro to recipes.